Hey everyone, happy Friday. There's a lot, big week this week, huh? Big week. Would love to hear what you have going on. And we've had a lot of interesting things happen. We had a debate last night, another debate. So, public service announcement. Please vote. If you have not voted, please make sure to vote. Vote early, I recommend. I'm going to be voting this weekend myself. I just need to get clear on some local issues, and that's what I'll say about that. Also, if you drop in, share something that you're grateful for that happened this week. Even if you see this on the replay, drop something into the comments on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube about something that you're grateful for from this week. Something that I'm grateful for from this week was a former client of mine invited me back for another potential engagement. It was a corporate client, so I'm looking forward to seeing the outcome of that, and hopefully things will kind of come forward with that. So I'm grateful that I'm thought of, that they were happy with what I did before, that they reached out in that way to consider me for another opportunity to serve them. So something I'm grateful for. How about you? It could be something small, it could be something big. I do want to mention, I'm going to start doing this on the Fridays that I don't have interviews. In the LA Times today, I read the paper every day, and including the business section. And I used to do this on Tuesdays. I would share some type of current event as it relates to careers and whatnot. And so I'm going to pick that up again, start doing that on Fridays, though, when we don't have an interview or whatnot. And Jeff Alexander, how are you? Good to see you, buddy. I hope you're enjoying retirement. How is retirement? So anyhow, with this article, the question is it time to treat the internet as a utility, right? And this columnist, David Lazarus, is actually advocating that we do, and he talks to a number of experts. And the argument for doing so is that it's become a commonplace thing. It's become a necessity, and to level the playing field for access for education, for business, for everything, even medicine now, right? With COVID-19, telemedicine has increased. I don't even know if he talks about telemedicine specifically. I kind of skimmed through the article, but he says that 44% of households with annual incomes below $30,000 don't have broadband service. That's according to a Pew Research Center report last year. And roughly half of them don't have a computer. And so the average bill, it's like $60 in the US, and he goes on to talk about how we're like 190 something out of 200 countries in terms of cost of internet service. That's terrible. We should be in the top 5, should we not? So our internet service there in the US is so expensive. So think about that. In the world that I live in terms of career coaching and leadership coaching, look at people who are conducting a job search, right? They can't afford their own internet service or something like that. That puts them at a significant disadvantage. It also, I would argue, puts companies at a significant disadvantage because there's a talent pool out there that they're not reaching. That could be an excellent resource for them to fill jobs that they've been trying to fill. And so I think it's a compelling argument to treat the internet like utility, just like phone service is, or electricity, or whatnot. And so what goes with that? And how many of you watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix? I just watched that with my son recently, in the last week or two. And it was fascinating. There's some things I kind of knew about social media and kind of the algorithms that feed different people different types of information. And so sometimes you just aren't going to get a contrarian view, right? It kind of identifies what you like, and that just gives you more of that. Because the goal of all of those websites is to keep you, is FaceTime, to keep you on their site, on their platform. So whether it's Facebook, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitter, that's their goal. And so all the different notifications that they have are designed with that in mind. So that's another argument for treating the social media, the internet, or companies related to that as a utility. I think that's a step further. I don't think this article is advocating necessarily that, but that's been something that's been talked about recently, right? They're being called to court as we speak, these companies, because of some snafus that have happened recently, like with Twitter and whatnot. So how does this relate to us in the workplace, right? How does this relate to us in the workplace? Well, there's many ways, and one of the ways is the whole diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? It has been a big topic lately, right? And how can companies create more inclusive cultures, right? And more diverse cultures. And when you have disparity around such things like this, with internet access, it does have an impact. It does have an impact on building that diversity in your workforce, right? So if you're only drawing from a pool of advantaged people, then you're missing out on some important perspectives. And depending on who you serve as an organization, right, you can lose out. So education, huge thing. I have a son, he's 16, he's a senior in high school. He's not someone necessarily I need to worry about, but if you have, because he's almost done with high school, well, what about all of you that have kids? And are you able to afford that access, particularly high-speed access? Because if you have multiple kids, and now during COVID, with multiple devices in the home, how good is the education going to be? How good are your classes going to be with very sluggish service, right? Things aren't going to load properly. You're going to lose connections. Right? It happens in my own home, and we only have like 2 devices at a given time that are going on. So these are just some random thoughts based on the article about it. I think there's a good argument for regulating it as a utility. I didn't get into the specifics on how, but I think there could be a balance. I don't agree in regulating things that can be self-regulated or that the market systems can take care of. I'm definitely a big fan of free market. At the same time, there are things that can become monopolies. There are things that can become kind of imbalanced. And for the benefit of, why do you need to regulate something? Well, it's for public benefit. That's really the underwriting factor. So if it's not happening naturally, then are there things that can be done? So I guess regulation is one avenue. And then I'll just argue against this article, or argue against my previous recommendation. Is another avenue is incentives. So instead of regulation, can you provide incentives to encourage a more balanced approach? So maybe that's the solution, right? Maybe can you provide an incentive to companies to have a more diversified workforce, for example, right? versus regulating, right? Which is a lot of people don't like. Just like the electric industry, the electric car industry, right? So there's a lot of incentives right now to encourage people to purchase electric cars or even natural gas vehicles, which are far superior than regular gas in terms of protecting our environment and whatever. So, are there incentives that can encourage people to make different decisions, right? And invest differently. So maybe that's an avenue. So, good to see you, Brett. Thanks for joining in on this. Any questions that you guys have? Or observations, share what's going on in your world? We'd love to hear it. So those are my thoughts. I can hang out for a little bit longer, and then I have a coaching client coming up. And with that, if you're not, by the way, if you're struggling right now, it is a good time if you're a leader that's struggling to connect with your people. That's a topic that's been coming up a lot in my coaching sessions, particularly virtually. So feel free to reach out to me if you need some support in that. How can you engage your employees? How can you resolve conflicts with your employees, with this whole virtual situation? So that's the topic of a lot of my coaching sessions right now. A lot of leaders struggling with that. And, together we explore avenues for that. And that's the same thing for people that maybe have been laid off. Many clients are looking at themselves and their values and looking long term, like, well, what do I really want to do? Maybe it's a good time for me to pivot my career, So feel free to reach out if you have questions around that. So that's what I've got for today. Thank you all for joining in, watching in today, and have an awesome weekend. I will be on next Tuesday at 5 o'clock for the next installment in my Engaging Your Employees series. It's targeted for leaders out there. So, and if you missed my previous ones, you can scroll through my LinkedIn feed, you can scroll through my YouTube channel, or my Facebook business page, actually even my regular page, I believe. You can find my previous broadcasts on Tuesdays. And then I have some interviews coming up on some future Fridays, so stay tuned for that. And the purpose of those will be to shine a spotlight on cool things that are happening and that leaders are doing within socially conscious and purpose-driven organizations. So stay tuned for that. I've got some leaders in the works that I'll be interviewing, and that'll be fun. So have a great weekend, everyone. Be safe and vote. Remember to vote. Take care.